Now I want to clip that to the text that I put down. So let me do that right like that. And why is that saying level 53? Usually that says whatever text it is. Oh, there it goes. Huh. There we go. And there we go. Now we're going to use the Align tool. So this is where we have our selection tool, which is at the top, or our move tool. And I want to select my text layers as well as their clipping masks, because I don't want those to move. So I want to just control click that one, control click that one, or I can shift click because they're all in a row, but I'll just control click all of these layers. Now I've got my align menu up here because this is my context sensitive menu. So I'm just going to go over here and say align my vertical centers. Thank you. And so it aligned them, but look, they kind of aligned to the left. So I want to nudge them back over to the right. No problem. I still have my arrow, my selection tool. I'll just nudge those over with my arrow key. Okay, that looks good. Deselect my layers. Now let me move this dragon. Let me zoom out a little bit because I'd like to add a snowflake. So let me sort of make him look like he's flying a little bit better. Let me select him. Let's move him down a little bit, but let's rotate him. So we can either say edit, transform, rotate, or we can just say Control T, which is our free transform. And see, when we're outside of the corner, see how it has the curved arrow? We can just turn him so he's like flying. So yes, commit. Bring him down a little bit. And now I have room for the snowflake. Snowflake is a shape, but it's a custom shape. So let's go back to where we had our rounded rectangle tool, our shape, and choose custom shape. Now again, I've added shapes from the Adobe Exchange. I've got a bunch of snowflakes in here. So here I've got my shape tool, custom shape, brings up the context menu. It's showing me here, I could even change it here back over to rectangle, rounded rectangle, my custom shape right here. And then over here, it's asking me, okay, what shape? And I've got a drop-down menu. And let me choose this snowflake here. Now I can either just draw it on and it's going to be all wonky, or I can hold the shift key down and it'll constrain it to exactly the correct height and width ratio. I'm going to let it go. And it's going to put it down with another shape mask and the left color. And I can change that color if I wanted to just by double clicking in the little color box. And then I could even make it darker or lighter. In fact, let me make it a little darker and say, okay. Now let's move it a little bit. Say over here. But it looks too straight up and down. So let's rotate it a little bit. Control T, transform. Grabbing that outside corner. Outside of the outside corner, where it has the curved arrow. Commit that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about blending modes. Blending modes is going to change this color so that it's almost like a camera lens, like a colored lens, or how it affects the color of the snowflake between the color that I've made it and the color that's behind it. And that's up here in the layers palette. By default, it's at normal. See, I'm here, I've got my snowflake layer. Here, let me name that snowflake so that we know, because it's kind of tiny. And in the layers palette, we have it at normal. And again, this is another one where you can just click on that And then using your arrow keys, you can come down through the different blending modes, and you can see the snowflake changing. It's got a little outline because the shape is selected, but you can see the color within is changing as I'm using my up and down arrows. Let's go maybe to lighten or screen. Maybe screen would be good. Okay, and then when I click away off of that layer and deselect that layer and its shape outline goes away, you can kind of see that now. Okay, we're just about done. I think I'd like to add a little drop shadow to the polar bear and these other two images though, because they look a little flat against everything else. So let me find my polar bear. Right there. Go back to the effects, say drop shadow. Okay, that's pretty harsh. And I think I'd like it more coming from like the sun is straight up. So here is where I want to release the global light, because if I don't uncheck this, watch what happens. If I change the direction, it changes the entire direction of the border too. So I don't want to do that. Let me put that back. Now release it from global light. Change it to be a little bit more up. Give it a little bit more distance. Oh, and you can see there's a little piece of that layer that I didn't delete when I was doing that before. So we'll have to go back in and do that. A little bit more size, but a little less opacity. That looks really harsh. So, okay. Now watch, if I have my move tool and I move this bear down, I've got something up here. Oh, yep, see I have a little bit up on the top and the bottom. So let me get rid of that. With the marquee tool, now even though I'm going over where it says level 53, it's not going to delete that because the only layer that I have selected is the polar bear layer. So I'm just going to say delete, deselect, bring the bear down with the move tool, marquee, delete, deselect, and move him back. And I'm going to zoom in because I see he's got a little piece of white against his back, and that's going to bug me. So I'll just come in here with my eraser, take that off. Oops. Now, what if I want to have this same exact style that I put on the bear on the lair and the dragon? Well, I can do that really easy. I can just, here's my polar bear, there's my effect that I have on there, the drop shadow, and you can see the little FX icon. If I hold down my Alt or Option key and then grab that little FX, I can pull it down and throw it on the dragon. And it left it where I had it, but it added a copy of that same exact style onto the dragon. I can do the same exact thing here and add it to the lair. So I just did all three, boom, boom, boom. And I think that looks pretty good. And I think we've hit on a lot of the different tools. So let's make our background go away. Save our file one final time so that we don't forget when we close it. And now we're going to save for web and devices. This is going to be our final image. Now we're not going to save it as a JPEG because watch what happens if we try to do that. We'll say File, Save for web and devices. And I saw somebody's on the forum that has little gray corners, and I'm sure that this is exactly why, is that they've saved it as a as a JPEG, and it's going to want to fill that in to be solid if you've got it as a JPEG here. And so you don't want to have that. You want to have it as a ping, actually as a ping 24, or as a GIF. And if you were to change it to GIF, I'm going to get several things are going to happen. I'm going to be restricted to only this many colors, the 256 colors, and it's going to want to fill in some what's called matting in between where I've got this drop shadow, and you don't really see it now. Oh, but you do see it down here where it says, see, this is the original where we have it in our Photoshop, what we're looking at. And this is what it's going to look like when we save it. And see how it's going to want to fill that in with a matte. We don't want to have that, so we want to have it as a ping. Plus it's going to bring down the quality of this image in here, because that's actually a photo, and so it's going to not render that as well. So we're going to want to make that a ping 24, which also supports transparency, but it supports transparency much better. There's obviously times where you want to use a GIF, particularly with logos when they're low number of colors, because they're going to be a much smaller file size. And pings used to be much larger, and not all browsers played well with them. People probably remember, if you're a web developer, if you used to use them, and you would have to code into your markup a hack just so that IE would render it actually transparent and not put this funky aqua color box around it. And there was actually quite a bit of coding to try to get around that. It was a real pain. And the file sizes were much larger. It's not so bad now. They're much more compatible with regular files, image sizes, and all the browsers pretty much play nice with them, so there's really no reason now not to use a ping. So we'll use the ping 24, which supports that transparency. We already set it up at this 620 by 150, so we don't have to change that or adjust that. You can always reduce your file size at the time that you're saving it for the web, and you'll see what I mean by that when I do the GIF animation, because I usually make my animations larger. It's much easier, particularly when you're playing with those smileys, and then reducing them when you're actually making your save for. But we're just going to make our ping now, so we're saving it at the 620 by 150 as our ping 24. Say save.